Let's get stabby.
Oh man, I saved that up for 2 weeks and it's just gone like that because I used it too soon. God damn it!
What are you talking about? You try to steal content from me?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have all the green skin lines locked down?
Hey everybody, it's Renowned Beard. I am Trusty Pax, and joining me as always is the supreme ruler of 8 Peaks, Archer King.
I don't know where I'm going, but when I get there, I'm gonna stab.
Don't back me into a corner. I have to stab my way out of. This is who doesn't love stabbing?
Who doesn't love the greenskins? Especially now, like right now specifically, this patch.
Yeah. So today we're covering Skarsnik, the Crooked Moon tribe,
Warlord of 8 Peaks.
Warlord of 8 Peaks. This is another campaign where the end goal is Carrick 8 Peaks. But I don't know how to let's set this up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, Skarsnik is a little night gobbo. With his buddy, his giant squig gobbler. And they always seemed to me, before we got the recent Greenskins patch, as like the challenge run. I don't know how you perceived it.
I think CA even perceived it as that. They did a run a couple months back where they started a Skarsnik campaign and tried to take Altdorf, and they were able to take it, but it was just like immediately a bad thing. Like, oh, you're not supposed to do that. Like, you're not going to win the campaign or get anywhere doing that, but it's like a cool thing to accomplish. Yeah, like honestly, Skarsnik is comparatively easy now. Not even just like greenskin buffs aside, like there's just campaigns that are now harder rather than his being ridiculously easy.
I mean, I wouldn't say his campaign is like easy at this point, but definitely compared to what it used to be.
Like, I will play Skarsnik before Gelt again, just in terms of actual survivability. Absolutely.
I mean, before the patch, when I played Skarsnik, because I always like those weird limitations I've talked about, where in this campaign you are limited to just goblins and trolls. You can use trolls and pretty much creatures. You can use the what Grom uses, those
Snotlings.
Snotlings, yeah, the Snotling wagons. Yeah, you have access to pump wagons. So really, you're just losing out on orc boys and black orcs, which does kind of suck.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, I think it really denies your high-level infantry. For the most part, I mean, like Night Goblins, especially Fanatics, depending on what you're fighting, are really, really strong. So it can be a detriment, but to be honest, the way it's kind of set up where you're getting Carrick 8 Peaks, maybe 100, 120 turns in, is kind of a really good follow-through, in that you end up there and then are able to kind of finish your recruiting, or like be able to recruit higher level armies once you get there.
No, I really like that. I did go a little bit past Carrick 8 Peaks. I think I'm sitting at like 148 turns, just about. But the thing that kind of sucks, well, I guess it doesn't really matter too much. When you get to Carrick 8 Peaks, you get to build one of those unique buildings, and it just takes a crap load of turns to begin to recruit orcs. Like, it's like, I think like 6 or 7 turns to recruit orc boys, like once just to build that building, and then you got to get up to like tier 3 and tier 5 for the black orcs.
Yeah.
But it does feel good. It feels earned, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, it's also like you still have minus 40% upkeep on goblins, so I feel like you can kind of still swing that way, especially with the scrap mechanic. But yeah, it's definitely a process. Like, once you take Carrick 8 Peaks, it's not over immediately.
No, I mean that's kind of the. I definitely fought a lot of battles in this just because goblins are not rated very high for auto resolve. But I think Skarsnik has I wish I wrote it down. It's the ability he starts out with. I don't know if you know it off the top of your head.
Like to do the stock and speed bonus, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called. I'll have to bring it up once we get in the game.
Mhm.
But you start out with this ability that, like, I think like about 40 meters, in a circle around you, everybody gets stock, and they also get a speed buff.
Mhm.
And I really got into the habit of, like, this is the only like spell I've ever used that gave my units stock. Like, because I'm not like I didn't feel like I was wasting a spell slot, since
Right.
it's just a natural ability.
Yeah, it's not
But
something you're casting. Yeah.
yeah, and it's a pretty strong ability, because you drop that on like your Ragnarok spider and maybe some squig riders or whoever is like close to your front line. You can get up to like the walls of a settlement, or up in like the faces of whatever enemy you're facing very quickly.
Mhm.
And they don't see that that Ragnarok coming until it's right on top of them.
It's kind of hilarious. Yeah.
It is, and just seeing it scuttle so much quicker, and not having to deal with that missile fire. I mean, that Ragnarok spider you start with is entirely necessary. Like, if you didn't have that, I don't think you can win those like first essential battles that you have with the dwarves in the Grey Mountains there.
I don't know if I really relied on the spider that much, to be honest. It's a good anchor piece, but it's not exactly like I was really, praising Sigmar because that spider was around. It was kind of like a back piece. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not a big Ragnarok spider guy, but it was okay. I don't know. They're all right. It's not
Well,
what
I
I like
think
about greenskins.
well, I think just in the beginning, like I'm not crazy about them either, but in the very beginning, when you're facing off against dwarves, to get, like you said, you called it an anchor point, and
Mhm.
just getting like a boat, you can get a lot of dwarf warriors to pile onto that, and then you get your night goblin fanatics to use their twirly whirlies right through the center of them, and
Mhm.
that's kind of how I was clearing out, a lot of those early battles, because I don't know about you. Well, in Skarsnik's campaign, you start with it's another minor settlement starting campaign.
Yay!
Aren't those great?
I'm
I
playing an
kind of
easy campaign next week.
Yeah, right. Tyrion, it is. Uh, well, you do get it started at tier 3, so even though it is a minor settlement, at least it's at tier 3 right away.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't remember if it was always that way. I feel like it wasn't, but I honestly can't remember.
As in, like this most recent patch might have changed it, or as in,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
I don't know if pre Greenskins patch, if it was like level 2 or something like that. Maybe it was
Maybe,
always.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
maybe
Yeah,
it
maybe
was
that's
always.
what. Yeah, it could have been part of why it's slightly easier now.
You have like your first. I think it's like your military chain building unlocked, where you can get the sneaky skulkers. Is that what they're called? Yeah.
Nasty skulkers.
Nasty skulkers. I always
I-
call them sneaky stabbers.
it's a good one too. Yeah, it's not bad.
That was another fun unit I had.
Nasty skulkers are probably my favorite unit in the greenskins, just because they're really, really good flank pieces, and they're also really good at settling down cavalry or like fast units that they'll send to flank, just because they have the smoke bomb ability, so they'll just trap anything and then immediately shank them to death. So yeah, nasty skulkers are my fave. Anyway, keep going.
Oh no! I mean, this whole playstyle, there's a lot of special abilities that you get to use on even units like that. Like
Mhm.
I think I had a unit of nasty skulkers that were like maxed out in rank, uh, until I passed them on to my second army that got obliterated at some point trying to defend a settlement against 2 armies from Clan Angerond.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, the nasty skulkers, if you give them that scrap upgrade that gives them perfect vigor, I mean, they're never slowing down. And you get that smoke bomb ability, like you mentioned, which is awesome. I mean, even if you use it just to chase down units as they're leaving the battle, because you'll probably have like your second use by that point once the battle is kind of winding down. And I don't know, they just do great damage whenever they have stock built in, and flanking dwarves. It's one of your only early like units that can actually do serious damage to the dwarven units.
Yeah, and even into, I mean, it's kind of more conflict based past that, but they fought Iron Breakers for me in a couple situations, and they didn't do too bad. Like, granted, this is like attacking them from the back. They didn't take any of the blasting charges that the Iron Breakers have or anything like that, so it was like purely in their best conditions. But they did pretty well against Iron Breakers of all things, which are like crazy hard to kill. Period.
Yeah, well, I think it's because just how that unit is designed. It's got a very high model count. Is it how many are in there? Yeah, 160. So you're getting the same amount as you would regular goblins. And it's very, unlike some units, it is really easy to get the best matchups possible. Just because of that, that stock that's built in, you get Vanguard deployment right off the bat for them. Not to mention, Skarsnik gives Vanguard deployment to all of his units, I think, at a certain point.
Not to all his units, but I think all goblins. Yeah.
Most of my army was goblins, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like everything but your mage and your spider, I think, pretty much end up. Yeah. Surprisingly, squig hoppers. I guess they have their own Vanguard deployment, but I don't know if they counted. Not that it matters. They have their own.
Do they start out with Vanguard deployment?
Yeah, they have.
Vanguard they do. Yeah. So you don't even need it for them.
Yeah.
What about squig hoppers, man? Did you end up using those guys a lot?
I did, actually. Yeah, they're actually really solid. They're not the tankiest cavalry. No. I wouldn't even call them cavalry, really. But they hit pretty hard. Like, they do really well if you can get them behind a line of like Coralers or Thunderers. Was really easy to hit them with, or like they'll shred artillery pieces as well. So yeah, definitely don't throw them like right into a line of infantry, but they're really good flanking units because they are pretty fast, which is a good bet, because like the other alternative is using like Wolf Riders, which are faster but don't hit nearly as hard and have very little holding power. So yeah, squig hoppers got used quite a bit in this one, actually.
Yeah, especially when you give them the scrap upgrades. I think they're called blinders. You get blinkers. I got their charge bonus up to 100. I don't. Yeah. Like you said, if you go into the back line of their Quarrelers or their artillery pieces, they absolutely melt them in like only seconds. It's a great feeling.
I think that scrap upgrade also gives them 15% speed. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe so.
No, that's scrap saddles. That gives you 15% speed and armor. The blinkers blinkers just give you charge bonus.
Okay, yeah. I just went for the speed, I guess. That's what it was.
I was all about that charge bonus, man. But you can I really wanted to replace the squig hoppers with the armored squig hoppers that you can get occasionally from Waaagh, but I was never able to pick it up. I had one unit appear once and then I lost it in a fight, even though it was in my Waaagh army, but I really wanted those armored squig hoppers. That sounded sounded awesome.
Yeah. I know we're kind of off track already, but like Skarsnik's Waaghs for me were considerably worse than Grom's. Like, considerably. It was 90% just straight gobos. Not even like night goblins, just like the goblin unit, and I just got a shit ton of them. And that was what I had, and I was like, cool. Thanks for the bonus chaff, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's unfortunate because I know he's supposed to have a higher likelihood of getting the goblin catapults.
The Doom Divers, yeah.
The Doom Divers, yeah. He's supposed to get Doom Divers more frequently, and I think I occasionally did see some pop up in his Waaghs, but you're right, it was mostly just goblins. It wasn't anything. But there's more. It's more for the green tide.
But like Grimgore's getting like Orc Biggins, and when we played Grom, I was getting Orc Boys at least with like some higher tier units. Not that I ever got like Black Horse or something like that, but the armies were consistently better.
I think I got some Hydras in them at one point.
In Skarsnik's?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, you have to be one of those weird things is just remembered it now. Depending on where you are in the world, gives you a higher likelihood of getting like, say, lava arachnarok spiders in your Waaagh or something like that. And yeah, I was in an area where I got like 2 feral hydras in my Waaagh army at one point.
I wonder where that is, because I wouldn't know off the top of my head.
No, I don't remember either. I just know I was able to recruit them after the Waaagh ended, and I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, hydras.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, super awesome unit. I'm watching Skarsnik's like opening cinematic, and it's really bugging me that Gobla is like full on eating his tongue. Like he's biting through it pretty clearly.
That's some bad CG right there.
Like, oof. Okay, we're gonna watch something else because that's bugging me.
I only saw like a portion of that cinematic, like because that's from Warhammer 1, right?
Yeah. All the greenskins aside from Grom are still definitely Warhammer 1 feeling.
I think they put those cinematics. There's actually a mod that puts those cinematics into Warhammer 2 for you, which would be kind of cool. I don't know why I haven't added it yet.
Like it just runs them in the engine, or it?
No, I think it just does the old cinematic, and before, like, if you choose them, it like shows you the cinematic before the game actually starts.
So I see. Gotcha.
Yeah, like that. Mm-hmm. So how do you feel about night goblins?
I think I said when we played Grom that I'm like a pretty big fan of them, and I actually am not a huge orc fan comparatively. Like I'll use goblins and then just switch to black orcs, and there's nothing in between. Just because I'll take fanatics over biggins, even though they don't trade as well. With the scrap, they get poison essentially, which is really damaging against.
So you're saying about the poison?
Oh yeah, I'll take like the poison over, getting a few more kills. I don't know. I feel like it evens out enough that I can justify, especially in this case, minus 40% upkeep on them anyway. So if they're like significantly cheaper, and I don't know about you, but my goblins were about like 60 to 70 gold a unit per turn, rather than like 300 for orcs. So I'm like, they have the twirly whirlies, they have poison. I'm pretty okay with these for the time being.
If you've never played as the goblins before, the twirly whirlies they're called the spinning loons. It's classified as a vortex spell, but it functions more like a wind spell, maybe like a basically you got to get your night goblins fanatics up close. You activate the spinning loons, and it's really constrained to where your goblins are. Like 3 of them, I think it's either 3 or 4, start like spinning. Like they have like stones on like ropes or something, and they just spin and they obliterate anything they go through. Sometimes they go pretty much on target, but occasionally you'll have one spinning loon kind of curve away, so they'll cut through armor like it's nothing. But if they decide to curve and go into your front line, depending on how they go on their path, because they kind of travel quite a distance, they can wipe out a lot of units, depending on how you use them.
Yeah, it's a very double-edged sword. Like you have a really good weapon that sometimes will take out a few gobos. Because it shreds everything it touches, and that includes like heavy dwarf infantry or your gobos. So yeah.
Also very unreliable on defensive sieges, I noticed. You try to use them on like tight areas of like dwarven holds, like the city alleys or the streets. Even though like you'll cast it in like the middle of the road, like between buildings or whatever, your twirly whirlies will just sit in one spot and spin briefly before blinking out of existence.
Yeah.
So you think they'd be amazing at sieges just because of what they can clear out. Like imagine just sending them down a road where an army of dwarves are like clustered into, and it's like, oh no, it just doesn't work for whatever reason.
Okay, I have 2 responses to this. The first one being magic sucks in sieges, period. Like that's, I don't know, have you ever tried to cast like a pendulum or like a flaming head on a unit that's holding on the ground behind a gate.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's broken already in that aspect. The other thing that I found was that it depended on where you did it, because I was able to actually defend Karak Asgaraz several times with just a garrison, because it had so many fanatics in it, against like huge stacks of dwarves, because they would all just come into one big cluster, and then you just throw, you know, 2 or 3 twirly whirly charges like down the pipe, and that was a good portion of their army. So yeah, it worked out for me, but I do know what you mean, because I got a few of those as well, and I've had it in other campaigns. So yeah, it's definitely something that needs to be, I would hope, worked on for Warhammer 3, if not fixed immediately.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel intentional the way that works. I mean, especially like you mentioned, the burning head. Sometimes you're very clearly trying to cast it like away from the wall, or like in parallel to the wall, and then magically it's like too close, and it just immediately just heads off in its own direction, like it bounced off of it.
Yeah, I'm glad I overcasted that.
Yeah. Winds of magic well spent. Skarsnik's got some interesting faction effects and lord effects, though, that really, especially with this newest Greenskid update, push him over the edge. Like I don't know how you felt about all the effects he receives, but I thought they're pretty powerful if you use them correctly.
Oh yeah, I was kind of surprised at how fast. Well, I'll just mention it. Hero action cost minus 50% and receive 100% bonus experience, which in the first couple stages, and even into like I got it a couple times past level 20 as well, your character or your heroes, when you use it as an agent, will sometimes get like 2 or 3 skill points for doing like one action. Like they'll damage the walls once and be at like level 3 immediately. And sometimes with battles, like if they're bigger battles, you'll get like 2 or 3 experience points like right out of the gate, which is really solid, actually.
A great way to get your Black Orc boss and River Troll Hag up to level 40 pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Also, you start with a goblin. Is it a goblin big boss? Is that what those are? Yeah. They're really good agents. I never really stick them into my army, but they're great at taking out walls and assassinating. And their action cost being so cheap, and how much experience they get, you almost want to use them whenever possible.
I had 2 level 40s before Skarsnik even reached level 20. It was ridiculous how fast they go up. Because the other thing too is like you're more motivated to actually use them as agents and really commit to some pushes, because you're like, oh, I can do this, like I can afford it. It's easier for me, and also he has the level, so I don't know. I found I was using more agents than I normally would anyway, because they were cheap and leveled up quick.
Yeah, like you might see like, oh, only 45% chance of success, and it's like, well, it doesn't cost that much, and either way I'm going to get a level up out of it. And then if you actually succeed, you get like 2 levels off of that one successful assassination or whatever, and it's like, oh, it feels like a good investment, no matter what happens.
Yeah, it's always solid.
And it really helps having line of sight in this campaign on kind of like your surrounding neighbors was very important to me. Because Clan Angerond, Beligor is a son of a bitch, man. He is, even though he supposedly pays 50% more upkeep on his units, it does not happen in the campaign.
Oh yeah, AI Beligard does not get it at all. Beligard, this is the only campaign you can play where Beligard does well. He might survive in other ones, but this one he will absolutely crush. He's super strong.
Yeah, that's where I was using the agents to kind of monitor. Like, you start in the, I guess, the northern edge of the southern Grey Mountains. You're right south of Altdorf, essentially, very close to the center of the Empire, really. You got that minor faction of dwarves in the way that you get to fight right off the bat, and then you get another no-name Skaven clan. But taking that kind of mountain range there, while you're doing that, Belagar is like putting together his forces and is gonna start either he will cut through like the Empire to like circle around.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's a I feel like I kind of, cheated a little bit because I have played this campaign sort of
Right.
recently. And I'm like, I would see him like just suddenly pop out like out of the north, like instead of Carl Franz. I'm like, you son of a bitch. He went all the way. It's like he was smart enough to go all the way around. And being able to block armies with your big boss goblin is kind of essential because it can either save you time or give you that ability to not be overwhelmed by multiple, stacks of dwarves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had to build the defenses up at Carrick Azgaraz because that was happening so quickly. Like I couldn't move from the initial settlement because Clan Angren had an army there every 2 or 3 turns, and Skarsnik was the only standing force I had. So every time they came up, I was like, "Ah, shit, Skarsnik's got to go back." And even though I was about to take Carrick Norn or like push on to Fester Spike, which was like a huge bitch, by the way.
Yeah, I lost Fester Spike I think at least once, maybe twice.
Yeah, fuck me. I don't know what happened on your end either, because that whole push is a nightmare. But the other thing that happened for me too is the Wood Elves, all of them declared war on me, and so I couldn't even like leave that province right away, even after I'd taken it, because there's literally 4 factions who can use the world roots and show up in your territory in 1 turn, and are at war with you. So as soon as I left, I knew they were going to come and just like show up on my doorstep, and there was nothing I could do about it because it's Wood Elves and they're already in my fortress.
Yeah, I don't know about the Wood Elves because they did declare war on me like fairly early on. Like in the early turns, it was like one at a time they started declaring war on me, but only once did they ever pop out into the Grey Mountains for me. Way into my late game, once Orion had confederated everybody, he started pushing out. But in the early, like even in the mid game, like they popped out one time, and I beat them, and then they went back and never showed up again. So I don't know if they were as passive for you as they were for me.
Yeah, they were kind of passive, but it was more just I don't want to have worked through this province. Like I said, it was really hard to actually take the whole thing, and not be able to protect it or to lose it right away as soon as I'm gone, because then I mean, like, what's the point of going back? I'm just gonna have to push. And like the other thing is like where that province ends in Fester Spike is that Carrick Ezor, which is Clan Angren and Belagar's starting settlement, is right there. Like it's not quite able to go through the underway like from one to the other, but it's close enough that if they're outside the city, they absolutely can get up to you in a turn through the underway. So even holding Fester Spike and that province, you immediately come under fire from Belagar in a different direction. And we haven't mentioned it yet, but you start at war with him, and there's no negotiating. Like, you cannot open diplomacy with him at all. Like, you're at war, and you're going to be at war until one of you is destroyed.
Wow, I never even considered like negotiating with him. I just really wanted to take out Belagar from all the times he fucked me over in the campaigns before the Greenskin update.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, I do want to pause and give you a little bit of a story. Like Archer was saying, it is incredibly difficult even to push through your starting province. Taking Carrick Norn, I just got lucky, and my Goblin Big Boss was able to take out the walls, and it was a brutal fight because I basically pushed to Carrick Norn as fast as possible. So I think it only took like 2 turns or 3 turns or whatever. But taking and holding Fester Spike, which is the southernmost, city down there, that's a bitch to hang on to because, like you were saying, Belagar just keeps popping in. So one time he had like 2 full stacks like sitting in that the valley just north of Carrick Izor that leads up to the Empire. So they'd kind of stage there before using the underway, for me at least. Like they'd kind of move right next to Fester Spike and then jump over like after a turn. And I was able to block one of the armies. and I had Skarsnik, just hanging out by that little intersection, like east of Fester Spike, but kind of blocking like that intersection going north and east to west.
Okay.
And
Yep.
and I put him into ambush stance, like dead set in the middle. And I was like, okay, I blocked one of his armies, so hopefully he can't underway this far. And Belagar could still underway, so I hit end turn. Belagar underways directly underneath me, and
Yep.
there is like I don't catch him or anything, right? And I had a Waaagh army that was building up to go to to bring the Waaagh over to him. And because he underweight directly on top of me, it actually eliminated my entire army and my Waaagh army without a fight. Like once my turn came around, it was like, oh, Skarsnik's been wounded, and like
What?
yeah, I shit you not, man. I had to load back like 2 saves to like. I got lucky though. Like I didn't lose too much progress, but I kept thinking, I'm like, no, this can't happen again. Like in another glitch, because I had like no movement speed left, so I couldn't adjust where I was at all. And like sure enough, he would just underway directly underneath me, even though he couldn't see me in ambush stance, and the game just
destroy the
eliminated.
army.
Yeah, just got rid of the army. Like, oh, you're in the way. Bye.
What the fuck? That's fucked. I can't believe that.
Yeah, man. I was like, oh, it wasn't hard enough before. You just gotta just be like, nah, you can handle it. Just build up that army again.
Yeah. Belagar, this is like Belagar has earned the backspace power. And
more than that.
I can just delete things at will. Yeah.
Yeah, so be on the lookout for that. Keep a lot of saves is my recommendation when you start out this campaign, because you will lose your shit if you have to like this campaign. It can be a little stressful, even if it's not as bad as it used to be.
Yeah. I think we pretty much mentioned all of the faction effects at some point, but I'll just run through them really quick.
Sure.
So we had the hero action cost minus 50% and receive 100% experience. And then the upkeep and recruitment cost is minus 40% for goblins and night goblins. Again, really strong. His Waaagh has the chance to contain doom divers, which now that I think about, I did get once. But like, what a lame thing to get. Like, Azag gets wyverns, Grom gets pump wagons, which is okay. I suppose Warzag just has the same kind of thing with his savage orcs, but I think like Grimgore having black orcs is super strong compared to like an artillery piece, which granted is a tier 4 and a really good artillery piece, but like, past 1 or 2, and if Skarsnik is already carrying 1 or 2, it's a little excessive and I don't need it.
And then not very good against towers and walls. Yeah, you'll end up wasting more ammunition than you would than rock lavas. But you can drop those doom divers like on units that would like normally you wouldn't be able to hit with the rock lavas. They kind of like go in high and then just drift downwards. And it's very strong still. But yeah, I never had more than 2 in my army. Like I've been sitting at 2 doom divers, and I've never felt the need for more than that, really.
Yeah, it's a solid unit that you don't. I don't know. It's a solid unit, but it's not a spammable unit. It's not a Stagadon. It's not
no.
Good in every sense. It's just like a good piece to have. But yeah. And then the final one is unique building chain available at Karakate Peats, which we already kind of covered.
What is it called? The deep passageways, looted treasure halls, defiled ancestor tombs is when you get the black orcs. Takes a long time to build that up. Yeah, it's pretty cool. He has lightning strike. I think I forgot about that one.
Well, it's his Lord effects. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You're right. You continue. I'm screwed.
That's actually it for faction effects, so we can move into it. Okay. I found lightning strike right off the bat to be like ridiculously strong. Like, it's so good.
Yeah, you don't have to waste skill points to get there if you don't want to. You can focus more on your army's abilities, which is what I kind of did. Like I didn't shoot down the blue tree like I normally do. I don't know how you took that, but yeah, lightning strike from the get-go is pretty pretty nice. It helps out a lot.
Mm-hmm. I usually roll lightning strike even if I don't think I need it, just because it's nice to have in those small situations. And if I haven't played a legendary lord before, I'll usually get it just so I'm kind of have an understanding of whether or not they should have it or if it's necessary to go for it. In this case, I didn't even really touch the blue tree, just because I don't think the greenskins supporting perks are as good as some other factions. So I just went and made Skarsnik a better fighter and a few more buffs to his units, and yeah, just turned out a little bit better than if I had to go for lightning strike.
Yeah, I think I did actually go all the way down the blue tree, but I definitely didn't. I don't think I dumped as many points into it in the early game. Like I almost always go straight for lightning strike.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
But he does get extra campaign movement range on that blue tree under proper tough.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's just not one of the original 4, I don't think. To working your way up.
Yeah, but he's got some cool. What were the other Lord effects before I start talking about something else?
He also has charge bonus plus 14 for Night Goblin Squig Hoppers. I don't know about this one, to be honest. It's pretty weak comparatively speaking. I don't think Skarsnik needs any buffs or like needs to be made stronger, because I think he's really strong as is, but it's not a game changer, to be honest. I mean, you were saying you got your charge bonus on your Squig Hoppers up to 100.
Yeah, the bar is maxed out, so I don't know if it's more than 100 and it's just not telling me, but it says it's 100.
Yeah. So unfortunately, there's only one Squig Hopper unit unless you happen to get the armored one in a Waaagh. So I feel like that's a really specific purpose for a unit that, isn't exactly useful all throughout the game. Like I don't know, if you're gonna give some perks to a certain unit, at least make it like Volkmar, where he has several different perks for flagellants. Like he has, like, all his lord effects are based around that. So I don't know, I feel like if you're gonna make a character that buffs a certain unit, make them like really buff that unit.
Well, I think it's tough because there's quite a few goblin units. Like, you get regular goblins, which you do have the upkeep bonuses towards.
Mm-hmm.
You do have Skarsnik's Death Juice as a scrap upgrade. Because I don't think you get like on your Night Goblins when you go to scrap upgrades. I don't think you get the Fungus Flasks if you play as another Greenskin Legendary Lord. I think it's like they have their own. I think that's Skarsnik's specific scrap upgrade. Pretty sure.
Yeah, because lords can't be upgraded with scrap.
No. But I just mean
his army.
Yeah, his army. Skarsnik's Death Juice. The other legendary lords, if they try to upgrade, scrap upgrade their Night Goblin, I think they can still get poison, but they don't get Skarsnik's Death Juice, which is like a really enhanced version of the
significantly better.
Poison. Yeah, which is awesome. Basically gives like it almost is like armor piercing because it debuffs the enemy so much. It's fantastic. What else is there?
Just that his Waaagh is different.
Oh yeah. Was it Skarsnik's Big Waaagh? You get a lot more missile damage. It's like just huge buffs to missile damage as well as to melee attack.
Yeah, it's a Waaagh. It buffs your units. I think Skarsnik is a little bit more mobile or missile focused than others.
Yeah, and you're usually dedicating your Waaagh to Mork, so that already gives you a 10% missile strength on top of all your other, missile units.
Yeah, that's true as well. Yep. So it does stack there.
But even the regular goblins, like I've got my elite goblin core. I think I did with Grom. They all got the armor upgrade. Like I only have a front line of like 5 units,
right?
Essentially. I mean, the Black Orc Big Boss can hold the line fairly amazingly well.
Mm-hmm. I think the other thing to consider too is that goblin archers are very strong right now. 400% armor piercing damage is pretty ridiculous, especially against a heavily armored faction like the dwarves. It's a perfect counter for a tier 1 unit that will make them mop the floor with like goblin archers will take out longbeards pretty effectively, and that's a big deal.
Oh, are you talking about the armor piercing just from the Waaagh? Because I don't have any goblin archers. I just have the night goblin archers. I don't know if you're talking about something specific under that.
No, I'm talking about like the goblin archers, like the tier 1 unit getting the scrap upgrade.
Oh, I never. They do get an armor piercing upgrade. You're
they
right.
Get a huge armor piercing upgrade. Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to have Skarsnik's death juice on like everything I could. So I think I replaced the regular archers with night goblins, like archers, fairly quickly. But I wish I had thought of that, because I do remember from Grom's campaign that I went more with just like regular goblin units. And
you stack the armor piercing with the dragon's breath, so the explosions. So now you have just like you have like outriders with grenade launchers essentially.
Yeah, and just a shit ton of arrows, man, because there's a lot more arrows with those goblin units.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's kind of ridiculous right now.
But I wanted to bring up the squigs again, because they were like my MVP unit of the campaign. Like, I really enjoyed using the night goblin squig hoppers. Aside from giving their giving them all the bonuses that you can through Skarsnik's tree or whatever. But I really was a huge fan of Tricksy Traps. That's his ability that gives extra speed and gives the unit unspottable in stock.
Mm-hmm.
I would usually, once I got Vanguard for Skarsnik himself, I would put him with the Night Goblin Squig Hoppers like off to the flank somewhere. I would immediately trigger Tricksy Traps at the beginning of the battle, and those Night Goblin Squig Hoppers would book it across the battlefield, and around the back of either their army or straight into their artillery pieces. Because the dwarven armies, the AI has a bad habit of, if they've got a reinforcing army, they'll stick their siege weapons out to the side and then try and drag the main army instead of instead of arranging it in the corner like a normal human being.
Mm-hmm.
It moves the entire army over to the reinforcements, and they always leave their siege equipment. Maybe 9 out of 10 times. Every once in a while there will be a unit to protect it, but my squig hoppers would just erase whatever siege weapons they had right at the beginning of the battle. And it felt so good.
It was always just they have a grudge thrower, and then just they had a grudge thrower.
They had several grudge throwers and bolt throwers for whatever reason. I had the same. I also used stone trolls again. I don't know how you. I don't know. Yeah, I didn't know if you went with pump wagons for that armor piercing or with stone trolls, but I kind of like the stone trolls.
I just stuck with goblin archers.
Oh,
I don't really like I'll use trolls if they're in a siege, and I don't think they're a bad unit, but I would rather have other units in a standing army. I won't recruit them just because I don't really. I recognize that they're useful. I just don't use them personally. That's all.
Fair. You reminded me of when you made fun of me the first co-op campaign we did with the Wood Elves. How my armies. You haven't really seen many of my setups, but you're like, oh, this looks like the AI built this army, and that's literally how I build all my armies. I've got a certain, in my own mind, I have a certain number of slots I'll allow for a front line, back line, and special units or whatever, because I always feel this insane desire not to make doom stacks and to make incredibly balanced and flexible armies, because I like the idea of having a cheap but strong army, because I like to have multiple armies, and also I may not be able to steamroll everything, but at least I can defeat everything if I need to. Although I don't know if I went up against Necrofex Colossus spam, how well this would do, but Yeah. Oh God, I don't even want to think about that.
No, yeah, that would be a massacre, and I'm sorry to say it would not be in your favor.
No,
So, some bolts would be pretty happy by the end of the day.
yeah, you're right. I would need more goblin archers, honestly.
Yeah, and even then, I don't know.
Yeah.
Necrofax is. I haven't fought Vampire Coast as the Greenskins, I don't think, but I don't think Greenskins would fare very well, TBH.
No. No. They do have some troubles with gunpowder, like taking like now that I'm at a turn 150, taking like level 5 Empire settlements, which there are almost none left, because guess what? Manfred and Vlad took out the entire Empire while nobody was looking.
I had the reverse. Reichland did very well for himself.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
It's like vampire. I can't even. I have not explored the Empire at all, but like I know Reichland is gone, and almost all the Elector counts are gone, if not all of them. Yeah, yeah. That's crazy though. I kind of wanted. I didn't want the vampires to do that good. I wanted to fight the Empire eventually.
Mm-hmm. I didn't even fight the Empire because, well, one, they never declared war on me, which was super lucky, but also, yeah, Franz was doing really well, and Eschen was also doing really well. And if Franz wasn't messing with me, and Eschen was in my way of taking Carrick 8 peaks, I was gonna take the Skaven.
That's interesting. Eschen is gone. Grom took out Eschen. Or not Grom. Grimgor. Grimgor took out Eschen.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, there's no my Empire. I mean, Karl Franz usually, even when I have seen him do better, if you don't really raid anything or mess with him, he just kind of cruises around Bretonnia in the beginning of the game. Like you'll see him pop in around Bretonnia for whatever the hell reason. And he's usually busy elsewhere. Thank God, because if you were getting backdoored by him, just I don't know how it's possible. You know?
Yeah, I was just like, fuck it. I do not want to fight the Empire, especially when they're at like full strength and Franz holds the entire Empire essentially. Like I'm just not going to deal with it. So I was focusing on my my tasks.
You just reminded me of Among Us. I was doing tasks. That's what I was doing.
Yeah, I was in the actor. I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking about, man.
So Skarsnik starts with, I think, kind of a cool mix of starting units, actually.
He really does, yeah.
Yeah. So he starts with the Fanatics, or a unit of the Night Goblin Fanatics, which is pretty strong off the beginning. They have poison attacks and obviously that spinning weapon that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, tier 3 infantry, and like that tier 3 infantry is, I think, is a solid start.
Spinning loons, I think, or Night Goblin Fanatics are they're either tier 4 or tier 5. I think they're tier 4.
Are they tier 4? Oh, okay.
Yeah, the regular ones, you can get Night Goblins at tier 3, but they don't have the spinning loons.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my mistake.
Go on.
Okay. So we also have the Arachnarok Spider, which we kind of also mentioned, and Squig Hoppers as well, which we've gone through. I know I said I didn't really like the Arachnarok Spider at the beginning, but I think it's a cool weapon to kind of have in your arsenal right off the bat.
Lets you take on siege battles. You know, can break down the gates pretty efficiently.
Yeah, that's true. You do get siege attacker right away with it. I don't know. It's kind of interesting because like even a legendary lord that kind of focuses on big monsters only has. I'm thinking of Krokar specifically. Krokar only has like a feral stegodon, which is a tier 3 unit. So Skarsnik having an Arachnarok Spider, even though it's like an anti-large monster, having a big anchor point like this is a. Yeah, I mean, before he was kind of taking what he can get, but now it's kind of making Skarsnik pretty strong.
Yeah, and just that God, I keep forgetting what it's called. The sneaky stabbing.
Nazi skulkers?
No, sneaky stabbing. Well, aside from, what is it? No, Trixie traps.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, Trixie traps, like using Trixie traps on that Arachnarok spider and your like infantry or whatever, like lets you just that initial dwarf settlement that you like, since you start in the minor settlement, obviously your first step is to take Carrick Norn and take the major settlement. I think I rushed that immediately. I did have my goblin big boss did get lucky and was able to destroy the walls, but having the ability to put speed and unspottable on the Arachnarok spider and just have it up into like the dwarven line and have my infantry like closing the distance before the quarrelers could even take that many shots, like allowed me to like actually take Carrick Norn like fairly early on. So taking Carrick Norn actually wasn't that difficult for me, just because I got lucky like that. But yeah, just being able to make a Arachnarok spider like unspottable. Like I was remember when we did the Imric campaign, and Imric had he had stock as well from, I think, defeating Clan Eshin.
Oh yeah, he had the defeat trait. Yeah,
yeah, and you described him as a stealth bomber, because I think I had ludicrous speed on him as well, and it was just hilarious.
It's a super powerful ability against the AI.
Yeah,
they're just kind of broken against it. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like they see my units way before they should, but other times I'm like, wow, I'm really on top of these guys, and they don't know.
It kind of makes me want to try multiplayer and like really work around the abilities that like basically take your units off the board and try and fuck with people's heads. Like, just that seems like a high level of play that I could get into, unlike the the microing of cavalry. I'd rather micro like stealth abilities and stuff like that. I think it seems like fun.
Yeah, knowing when to activate and really press rather than just like, oh, there's a good anvil to strike.
Yeah, because I mean, so you can only hammer an anvil so many times, and I don't know. This is the first, like I said, it's the first campaign that I really had like a stealth ability that I was constantly triggering, like throughout the campaign. So I don't know, just something a little new and fun for me. I liked it. So did you? How was taking out Clan Angered for you? That's a fun 50 turns or so, isn't it?
50 turns. Yeah, like I said, like basically what was happening was while I was trying to push through Carrick Norn and into Fester Spike, was they were sending an army every couple turns, and before I left with Skarsnik, I had walls at that settlement, so I had a really good garrison and walls, which is really useful against dwarves, because they will kind of do that thing where they just bunch up and their ranged units are not nearly as effective.
Thank God.
The big thing that actually happened was I had the initial starting province, and then I pushed into Carrick Ezor and actually kind of went through this like really bloody battle to get it.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, and while I was sitting there kind of recovering with Skarsnik, who was not in a good way, even with the Waaagh army he had, the other army I was kind of training up, because I could afford more, but I was running at a deficit, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know. Well, I guess I do know. Clan Angren was left with is it Zarek Bufdar or Carrick Bufdar? It's kind of
Carrick Bufdar has like that lumber resource right next to the wood elves. If that's
yeah,
what you're talking
about. They also had the ranger building. So I fought. I don't even know how many stacks of half miners and half rangers.
I did the same thing.
It was so ridiculous, because like the miners are an afterthought. Like one good foot of gork is going to end most of them, because they're so easy to bunch up, and upgraded gobos are pretty good answers to them.
Yeah, they'll hold the line.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like really it was dealing with the rangers, who have stock and are really hard to get a hold of. They're going to outrange all of your archers. So I mean, the only real way is to draw them in. So I had to keep pulling them into defensive battles. So they would like attack Carrick Ezor, or like I would ambush them with I had some extra squig hoppers in that army to help deal with this, because there was always just so many rangers, and I was trying so hard to just like destroy the faction. Not because I was really trying to get like lore friendly revenge on Belagar, but I was just so tired of fighting fucking rangers and miners over and over.
He does not give up. There is nothing else in the world but you to Belagar.
Yeah, fuck Carrick 8 peaks. I have Carrick Boofdar and 3 stacks of rangers. Fuck with me.
That was the crazy thing. I remember when I pushed him at a Carrick Boofdar, because I had the same thing of rangers, and I think I didn't get so much. I got miners, but mostly dwarf warriors.
Right.
But once I took Carrick Boofdar, all he had left was Zarek Zil, that kind of like awkward settlement that's so unprotected, like to the south.
Yeah.
It always stands out to me whenever I play Ikka Claw for whatever reason. It's like a weird location, but he had just that minor settlement left, and he could still put out 2.5 stacks of dwarf warriors at that point. It was just waves of dwarf warriors, which wasn't a problem with lightning strike and the units I had at that point. So
yeah,
it was kind of like an auto resolve thing at that point. But I was just like, how he's supposed to be paying 50% more upkeep, and with 1 minor settlement, like no gold mine or anything like that, he's just cranking out dwarf warriors, like 2.5 stacks.
And the other thing is his ghostly heroes are ridiculous to kill as greenskins.
You can't assassinate them. Yeah, and they've got such like a crazy high physical resist, missile resist, or whatever. Like they're all, and they never run away. You can't break them. You have to destroy them every time they pop in.
Yeah, I don't even know how many battles I ended up just pressing the fast forward button, because I knew I was going to win, but it was 1 or 2 heroes left and just a pile of gobos until they eventually like succumb to the thousands of spear wounds.
Yeah, and they take out a considerable amount of goblins too before you'd get there. I mean,
exactly.
I hated those heroes. Maybe that will be an interesting dwarf campaign when we get to it someday.
Clan Angren is super fun. Yeah, that's probably my favorite dwarf campaign.
Oh, really? It does seem like it has a lot of drama, I guess you could say, because I felt I kind of miss the old feeling of Crooked Moon, where I was like shitting my pants the whole time.
Yeah.
But I think I still prefer like having the new units, having Skarsnik have his own Waaagh. I mean, it's not like you can't lose this campaign pretty easily if you make some mistakes. I mean, like I mentioned before, it took me 49 turns. I was looking in the records or whatever. It took me 49 turns to take out Clan Angerund, which maybe it sounds fast in hindsight, because it felt like it took fucking forever, man. Like those 49 turns took a while, in my opinion. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I bet you were. It always feels longer when you're fighting a close war, because there's so many battles that you have to fight. So even though you're going through 2 or 3 turns, you've gone through what
potentially
feels like 10,
2
because you've probably gone through half a dozen battles in there.
And especially because that valley that's south of Fester Spike, like holding on to Fester Spike, I definitely lost that like at least once and probably twice. And just hanging on to that bottom portion, because it would just be underway, or I'd be using my goblin big bosses to like keep track of where all of his armies were. So this is like the first time that I actually felt like I used, like you said, used agents probably to the best of their abilities.
Right.
And blocking armies and trying to control when he was going to be able to make it to me, and just chilling in ambush stance outside of Fester Spike, just hoping that when he underweight underneath me, I wasn't going to get deleted again.
Yeah, it's just such a crossroads, because the other thing too is that even though the Wood Elves are able to use the world routes, they can also come up through that valley right there. So you don't even have this like retreat point, Because if you get turned back at Carrick Ezor, or if there's a few too many armies up north, or they're pushing you at Fester Spike, like if you go down into that valley, there's probably going to be a Wood Elf army there to attack you after. So like running away isn't always in your best interest, even because you can get fucked from a different direction.
Yeah, that's a dangerous alley that kind of creates. It's very interesting, actually. Like the geography of this whole area is very interesting because, I mean, if you look down like south from Carrick Ezor, like you get that entire valley that runs up to Fort Sol, like, but you've got Ikiclaw down there. You've got Aranessa Saltspite, Sartosa down there, and she's still hanging on 150 turns in. She hasn't really gotten too far, but she's still there. Ikiclaw looks like he's wiped out most of Bretonia, but I've seen him send forces up to the Wood Elves every once in a while, like up this valley. It's I wish I had the words to articulate it, but it's a complicated area. You get the Wood Elves, Bretonia, Sartosa. Okay, Sartosa did take some territories over here.
The border princes will come up in through there if they're doing well. The Empire will come down, like Gelt I saw down there for a bit. Weisenberg actually pushed there as well, running from the vampires. A couple times Vlad ended up there after like losing a battle. He like ran down here.
Right now, Manfred is raiding Fort Sol and has been for probably like the past 20 turns, like begging me to declare war on him.
Yeah, he's probably looking at that settlement just being like, no.
Well, Fort Sol right now is at level 5.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'd like to see him fucking try.
Exactly, yeah. It's probably fucking stupid right now with one army.
It's got a lot of Blood Knights, a couple of Vargheists. But he is on his Blood Dragon, so I dare him to take Fort Sol. I actually, Fort Sol was really fun to defend because I think I was able to take that from the Golden Order after they either lost it got sacked by somebody, I don't know who did, and I just kind of moved in and took it. And even at like level 2 or level 3, it's not a great garrison, but the dwarves would vastly overestimate how well they could do against it. And I won a couple battles at Fort Sol as like just a level 3, garrison there. Just because, I don't know, it was pretty fun to defend. Yeah,
it's always a peak of my Empire campaigns.
It's like I said, you don't have that great of a garrison with the greenskins, but for the first, you actually do get orcs in that garrison, so it's like one of the early. It's the only time you get to play around with orcs.
Free Biggins play for a bit, yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, a couple black orcs for once. Thank God. The level 5 actually gives you two Doom Divers, 2 giants, 3 black orcs, and just like bunch of Biggins and arrow boys. Yeah, a lot of Biggins actually. Really want to. I hope I dare him.
What did you think of Skarsnik's Prodder? Which battle did you end up playing?
Oh, I don't know. I did an ambush. The first one I did was so now we're talking about the quest battles. You have to do 2 of them before you get his Prada. The first one was I think it was an ambush in like a winter area. I can't even really remember it. It was so long ago.
I mean, they both are, but yeah.
Oh, is it? Yeah. The first one, the ambush was fairly standard and easy. Like both of the quest battles were very, I don't know,
they're pretty easy, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was designed they definitely were designed pre Greenskin patch, so maybe they were challenging at one point.
I to be fair though, I mean, Greenskins haven't ever really suffered that bad in battle. But the other thing is Skarsnik's known for his ambushing and specifically on dwarves, pulling them into situations they don't want to be in and just ruthlessly picking them apart. That's his shtick. So I think it's kind of fitting that both his quest battles are ambushes or ambush-esque. And even though they're not that hard, I find sticking to the characters actually more satisfying for me than, like, oh, that was a really like epic battle kind of thing. Because not everyone needs the Carl Franz bombing the greenskins as they like bolt down that hill at you.
No, I actually I'm glad you kind of put it in that perspective, because at the time I was like, ooh, I get to ambush the stunties.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, yeah, Skarsnik doesn't like a fair fight. That's not in his character. And like you said, he is ridiculously good. I mean, he's like the only greenskin who can speak Reichspiel and Kazalit. So he can understand the dwarves, and he really does. He keeps beard scalps from the dwarves that he uses. Like he hangs them up in places to like draw dwarves to, get revenge. Like he's got his own chapter in the Book of Grudges. Apparently, he plays the dwarves like a fiddle, man.
Yeah.
And the Skaven to maybe a lesser degree, but definitely the dwarves. And you're right. I am kind of a fan of those ambush quest battles, because I was just like, all right, it's gonna be a massacre.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it's supposed to feel like. I thought, especially the one where you're like actually just in an ambush against dwarves was really fun.
Yeah, you've got great terrain. Like there's like a cliff where you can put some archers up on that they can't even reach.
Yeah, all their range units are just put by themselves in the back and are easily jumped on by squig hoppers or
I'm like
squig
hoppers charge.
Yeah. So.
I just love the animation. I love the portrait of the squig hoppers, man. Like the night goblins are my Warhammer spirit creature. Like just high on madcap mushrooms. They see this giant thing that is just legs and teeth, and they're like, I'm gonna ride that bitch.
Yeah. I mean, you'd have to be a greenskin to be crazy enough to try it.
What was that? I just want to read this really quick. It's nothing special. It's just their description. It takes a certain kind of insanity to ride a rage froth squig and bounce into the fray. Once upon a time, in a reckless mood, a squig herder dared to leap upon the back of one of his catches. Driven to new heights of fury by the unexpected rider, the cave squig responded by bouncing with unflagging enthusiasm. The rider flailed about, screaming in a high-pitched manner while desperately holding on. This provided great entertainment, and the remaining herders cheered and cackled every time the squig unseated its unwanted guest. And it eventually ended with both the rider and the squig skewering themselves on a stalagmite, but it inspired all the other goblos in such a way that it became basically a way of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it became part of their like culture, essentially.
Yeah, rad squig hoppers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Who knew night goblins could be cowboys, as well. It also mentions that the knives that they carry, they don't actually use them because they spend all of their effort just hanging on to the squigs.
That's actually hilarious. Fuck. I love the greenskins for that reason. Just that there's like so many dumb little like things like that. They're just like, oh yeah, that was smart.
They're just insane, man. That's why I like that you've become a fan of the goblins. Like the orcs are good too. Like I do like the orcs, but there's something about the gobos. They're small. They're vicious. They're tricksy, and I don't know. They use poisons and shit, man. I love them.
Well, I think part of it too is like we've played the 2 goblins. We haven't played any of the orc lords.
I know.
So I don't know. Just wait till we play Waaagh, and then I'll get the serial dance trait for myself.
Yeah, Waaagh is really fun.
Yeah,
I think. I started doing a little bit of a Grimgore campaign, but I only had like a brief time. And
I love that even when we're still playing greenskins for Renown and Feared, you're still playing them as other characters on your off time.
Yeah, man. I told you, like when you asked me, like if there was one faction I would play, I'm like it's either greenskins or Skaven. Like
yeah,
I mean,
I think greenskins are the better bet actually, just because they're in a good place right now, and their units, like there's more than one way to play them, right? Like Skarsnik is good at the squig hoppers, like you get the savage orcs, whereas like I mean Ikit especially is good at it, but for the most part when you're playing Skaven, you're gonna spam weapons teams.
yeah, you really are. Although I am waiting to see what the new DLC has in store. I'm hoping for some good monstrous infantry for the Skaven.
Yeah, please fuck me up with something cool for the Skaven.
Yeah, and maybe the Skaven will be take the number 1 spot again.
Yeah, who knows?
So, I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, the second quest battle and final one to get Skarsnik's Prada, it's kind of like a last stand for that like generic dwarven army that like faction that only appears for the quest battles.
Yeah.
You can actually surround them on all sides, but I was like, I know they're getting reinforcements, so I ain't about to totally surround them. And I didn't want to lose like my top, like at that point, by the time I got to that second battle, everything was ranked like at the max. So there's no way I was even going to lose one of my goblin units, So I was keeping everything together. They had a lot of the flamethrower dwarves. They had some iron breakers. They had some good shit, but I had more. And yeah, it's over fairly quickly. But like you said, it's another one of those things where you've drawn them into a trap, and it's the battle is really dictated by how you want to play it.
Yeah, I think is a cool alternative to just being like, oh, look at this, like it's another quest battle kind of thing. Yeah,
and the fact that they're all ambushes makes sense, like you put it. And Skarsnik's Prada is pretty fun, man. It's unfortunate that I didn't get it until like so late in the campaign, because I basically took Carrick 8 peaks, and then once I recovered, I didn't even teleport. I just manually ran over to where the quest battle was because it was so close by.
Yeah, it's like right there. Yep.
Skarsnik's Prada, it gives you a magic missile, and it's pretty cool because it does explode on impact, and it's got little explosions that kind of pop out after it. So it can actually do quite a bit of damage because I've been fighting Grimgore recently, and if I get a bunch of black orcs all bunched together, I just fire that into them, and it actually does pretty damn good if in the right circumstance.
Which I think it's kind of what it's designed to do, just like a one-shot like little bombing run.
Well, yeah, and Skarsnik is sort of like he's not outright a caster, but he does have some abilities that kind of blur the line. Like he's got a really good hex and a really good buff, in my opinion. Spite of the Bad Moon, I think I can't remember if the green, like the Goblin Shamans, have that as well. But Spite of the Bad Moon gives just a pretty large 25% armor piercing base weapon damage and bonus versus large. And Fermented Fungi, which I loved using, drops the enemy melee defense by 24 and causes them to rampage. So if you've got like an enemy lord or hero that's about to lose and you want them to stay in the fight, you just drop that Fermented Fungi on them. And they're not only they're going to die faster, but they're going to willingly go to their deaths because they will not run once they've rampaged. I like using that ability.
It's so popular in multiplayer. Like if you're playing greenskins, you're bringing Skarsnik and you're bringing Fermented Fungi, and the battle depends on where you use it.
I totally believe it. I mean, causing, like we said about the manticores, that drives us crazy. The rage, being able to trigger that on somebody is pretty powerful.
Fuck manticores. All my homies hate manticores.
Unicorns, but for boys.
No, I would take a unicorn. Give me a unicorn over a manicore, dude.
I don't even know how to respond to that, man. I'm trying to be positive here.
That's just me liking unicorns. I don't know.
I don't know. What's that? Give me a cockatrice over a unicorn. You know, that weird half turkey demon that turns people to stone. I'm down for that too.
I've been playing The Witcher recently, and like cockatrices are not something I'd be like super into either. They're very chicken-like.
Yeah, chickens are terrifying, man. They're like little velociraptors.
Yeah, but if I'm taking it as a pet, like I'm taking the majestic horse with the fucking horn, then like this giant chicken that might make me into a statue depending on how I approach it.
No, what? Give me a fucking chimera. You got a goat, a lion, and a snake all in one. That's what I want. It's for those of us who can't make up our minds.
Yeah, I want a little bit of everything. Okay, sure. Here you go.
A little bit of everything deadly. And goats are cool. So
a little bit of everything deadly and goats.
And goats. Yeah, they've got the attitude.
Mm-hmm.
They round them out. Yeah, so I'm kind of surprised that the Empire did so well. I'm disappointed that I didn't get to face them as much because I really, really wanted to once I got powerful enough. That vampire corruption is being a bitch. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, it gets pretty out of hand pretty quick.
I mean, fortunately, I got like the level 5 shamanic teepees everywhere, and and I also got Skarsnik's camp, which all gives untainted. So I do get it in control for the most part, but I don't know. I haven't had to fight the vampires because I've maintained an unsteady peace, and obviously, like I mentioned, they are testing me,
right?
And I don't like it. But I've got a lava arachnarok spider that would love to give them what for. Yeah, mainly it was the campaign for me mainly consisted of like the defeating Clan Angarond, which took 49 turns apparently. Then after that, I moved east to the Black Mountains, like because we didn't mention, but the suitable climate for you is like mountains, I think wasteland or basically the temperate climate of the Empire is unpleasant. And I've made mistakes in the past, just like CA did, where I tried to take Altdorf, and which I had in the past before the Greenskin update, and it's just not worth it whatsoever. So it was weird. Like my campaign, like the only time I really strayed from the mountains was to take Fort Sol, because I'm like, I want to hold that mountain pass. And it was pretty easy to do so. I moved through the mountain ranges of Karakern, Angazar, and Vongol Barak, or whatever, taking out those minor dwarf factions. And I actually moved. I took out our old friends, the Slayers, a while back.
Azag did that for me in my campaign.
Really? Azag has gotten nowhere. He's like still has his starting settlement, and like that's it. I'm just waiting on moving up there to confederate him.
Yeah, he got confederated by Grimgor, and so he was allowed to like keep. They had like one settlement up there that was well defended, so he was able to keep spawning there before I confederated him with Grimgor. So yeah, he did all right. Enough that he was holding Karakadrin when I got him.
I think I fought Thorgrim a bunch of times this campaign. He was another pain in the ass. That was like the next big thing after taking out Clan Angarund was moving east and kind of starting to take on the dwarves a little bit, because Grimgor was doing extremely well in the south, like and the east. Like he's wiped out Cetra. He's taken everything south and east, like the Plain of Bones and Clan Eshin.
Oh yeah.
So he's done really well, but for some reason, I think because he's moving so fast in that direction, the Karazakarak was really hanging in there, and that was a bitch to fight them too. But you just wait for that well-timed Waaagh army, and you just kind of move in there, and you just overwhelm them. It's like very difficult for the AI to like plan ahead. They're either aggressive or they're passive. Like the AI runs that calculation like we can definitely beat them, so we're just gonna rush out and like fight them. And there's not really a calculation that they run that maybe I should keep a 20 stack in Karazakarak just in case. You know.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of exploiting the weakness of the AI. Like,
Well,
it's
not,
it's it's what you win with.
yeah, you don't really have to like it never feels purposeful. It's just like it undervalues your green skin units so much that it's just like never learns from its mistakes, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, you're right. That is exploiting the to attain victory. But
Well, I don't. Yeah, it's. I don't think it's an exploit per se. I just think it's like what you do to
no, I didn't mean
kill the
it as
enemy.
like no, I didn't mean it as like an exploit in that sense. It's just
Yeah,
you exploit the enemy's weakness, and that's
gotcha.
the AI's consistent weakness is really just depending on their cheats of pumping out units, no matter how non-existent of an economy they have, and
Right.
relying on that auto resolve calculation that it runs. But fuck them, you know, there are plenty of tough battles between myself and the dwarves. It got easier as it went on, though. Once you start like really putting scrap upgrades on all of your units, and yeah, I don't know, it gets easier after a while.
Hmm.
Especially once you get wipe out Clan Angrand. Once that happened, I was feeling pretty confident. Like
Yeah,
they were
there's
just
almost 2 steps of the campaign. It's like destroy Clan Angren and then get Karagate Peaks.
yeah. I think for me, step 2 was Karak Karazakarak, and then the final like easier push like the final chapter of Karak 8 Peaks was actually pretty easy because Grimgore had never taken it, so it was just like the Crooked Moon Mutinous Gits, and I think by that time I had 2 armies down there. You know, Skarsnik and another one, both with Waaagh armies. So I just auto resolved the Battle of Karak 8 Peaks. I was just like, fuck it.
Oh, not even for the epicness of it, just the
No,
significance.
I think I was watching my like son at the time, so it was like I was like trying to like I couldn't even wear my headphones while I was playing, and I was just fuck it, I'm just gonna auto resolve it because it
Yeah,
was stacked so much in my favor.
right.
Like those really big battles, like I can't be having any distraction like when I'm doing them. Like I probably honestly would have done worse at that time had I not. But I did kind of cheat myself, didn't I? How was taking Carrick 8 Peaks for you? Did you manually fight it? Yeah, were you a man
Yeah,
about it?
every time I've ever taken it, like as Skarsnik or otherwise, they've always left a 20 stack in there. So it's never been an easy battle for me. It's always been something you either have to back it up with another army or you have to call a Waaagh on it or another, doesn't really matter. I essentially just used the Waaagh I was using elsewhere and used an army to take it because it was essentially a 40 stack at that point.
That's how I took it. 240 stacks,
Mm-hmm.
and click the button, man. Not as epic as it could have been. It felt good though. You know, yeah, you finally have that Carrick 8 Peak symbol that's like floating in the top middle of the screen, taunting you the entire time with lower obedience and stuff like that. Finally lights up. Feels good to be back home. I do want to bring up some funny things that I was reading in Skarsnik's lore. Like I'm debating whether like to do it chronologically. Like I really wanted to buy his book. It's like a biography of Skarsnik.
Yeah.
But there was 2 things that jumped out at me immediately. Was his initial clan was the Backstairs Boys, which I always bring up boy bands and how to fit Warhammer characters into it, and I'm like, he basically was in one. So Skarsnik originally hails from the Backstairs Boys. Backstairs back, all right? Or I don't know how the lyrics go. My sister was more into that sort of thing. And another thing, so he goes through all these crazy adventures because he's the smallest. Like his name was originally Runt, so he was the smallest night goblin, but very intelligent. A lot of things happen to him, and you can point out the stories that you want to bring up about him. But one of my favorite things about it was after he gets like thrown out of the Backstairs boys, he ends up being picked up by like a wolf goblin tribe of the plains, and so gets taken as a slave for them. And during that time, he eventually earns their trust because he shows them that he learns Kazalid and Reichspiel during that time. And gets a dwarf. He gets a dwarf to start a fight with him because he basically makes a "your mama" joke or something like that to the dwarf and gets him pissed off. But it oppresses the goblin lord there. And there's like this certain part after he starts like stabbing his way to the top, as Skarsnik always does. He's like high, really messed up on mushrooms, and he's like out in the middle of like he's a night goblin. He's supposed to be underground, but he's like out with these these marauding wolf goblins crossing the plains, and he gets so messed up. It's either Gork or Mork who appears in the stars above him, and I can really relate to this because I feel like I had a similar experience, but it was Mufasa instead of Mork. But Mork appears and like it's like God. Imagine God appearing to talk to you, and he's like, "Hey, you with the green face, like, what are you doing out here?" And it's in the book. That's why I want to read it so bad. But Mork appears to him in the sky and just is like so crude and is like, "What the hell are you doing out here? Get back home!" And that's his interaction with the divine creator of the universe for the greenskins is like, "Hey, you with the face, get back home." And basically from then on, he's on a mission from God to take back Karaki 8 Peaks. So I don't know, maybe not that funny, but I just like imagining God, like it's like God speaks to you and it's God as Mork. I mean, what couldn't God be Mork? You know, who knows? Really?
I mean, yeah, there's as much evidence as Gork.
Yeah, I mean, although it probably wouldn't be great for like global relations if it turns out Gork and Mork are real, because it's just gonna be downhill from there.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
So what'd you pick up from Skarsnik's background that you really liked?
I just thought it was kind of interesting to have. Well, one thing was actually him and Grom are apparently like the only two goblins of note ever.
Yeah.
I also kind of found it interesting that it wasn't just like a story of a greenskin being like the best at killing things with, as like the case is with. I mean, they all have their quirks, but like for the most part, they're respected because they're good at killing things, or they're good at surviving, or they're good at leading other greenskins. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting to find a character that is kind of just there because it's partially luck and because he also is I wouldn't say tactical genius, but pretty good to be like consistently outsmarting the dwarves.
I mean, as far as the greenskin is concerned, he's definitely a genius among greenskins.
Yeah.
Because Azag cheats. He has that crown that possesses him.
Yeah.
But I've seen a lot of fan theories where like if Grimgor and Skarsnik ever teamed up, like Grimgor is like basically the incarnation of Gork, and Skarsnik is Mork incarnated. Like apparently Wurzag was trying really hard. I'd like to see the stories about it, but Wurzag was trying really hard to get Grimgor and Skarsnik together, and like the idea was that if he got them to work together, it would be like Gork and Mork walking on Earth. And I could definitely see if they teamed up like in this universe, like the greenskins would probably be nigh unstoppable at that point. But it's really difficult to get greenskins to work together, and especially to get orcs to respect goblins, even if they are pretty powerful. And I did read that Skarsnik is actually a really good fighter. Even though you wouldn't guess it because he's got his prodder, but back when he was a little night goblin, when he met Gobla. I mean, how could I have not mentioned Gobla? Apparently, when he's really young, Skarsnik, I mean, saved Gobla when it was a baby squig from his war boss from being eaten. And years and years later, when he was going to be basically thrown into a pit of squigs to be eaten for the enjoyment of the war boss, the biggest squig, which was Gobla, like kind of fought to the front and realized that that was the goblin who saved him all those years ago. So Skarsnik apparently randomly had a soft side that ended up, bringing the love of his life, Gobla.
Worked out for him.
It did work out for him, well enough. But Gobla eventually dies, apparently in the end times, unfortunately. And then Skarsnik just like has his heart broken and just hides in Carrick 8 Peaks and never really does anything again.
Oh no, that's depressing.
Yeah. Oh, it is depressing, isn't it? Yeah. It's like this crazy battle between the Skaven and in Carrick 8 Peaks, and Gobla dies. And even though it's kind of a draw, like it's not a battle, he really loses, but he doesn't win either. And then after Gobla dies, he just kind of like he just gets depressed actually, and just doesn't really give a shit about anything anymore.
Oh, that's so sad. No way.
Yeah, Gobla was the only real friend he ever had, and I think that's kind of cute, you know.
Yeah, I mean, in the same vein, we're talking about someone who's known for killing people, and his friend that died is literally a mouth with legs. So it's also in the end times, and like no one's really counting that anyway. So
I know, but I like to like the idea of it. Kind of is just like poor Skarsnik, man.
Yeah, I feel bad, but at the same time, like yeah,
he's a vicious little bastard, but
yeah,
it's not all bad. He's also, I think, because greenskins actually, the more fights they win, they actually physically grow larger. And I think at the point of like Skarsnik being in charge of the Crooked Moon tribe, he is actually like the biggest night goblin physically. Whereas, but he was born as like the smallest, like he was the smallest night goblin of his tribe.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think it's interesting how like greenskin physiology works, where like if you actually survive and fight long enough, it's like you're basically like a Saiyan or something. You're always getting bigger and stronger somehow. And it's interesting to see that he survived so long and was so cunningly brutal or brutally cunning that he physically grew larger at a certain point than at least the other night goblins, who are smaller than regular goblins on average. I guess. I don't know.
Greenskin physiology is just fucked. I do not get it.
Well, they're essentially a fungus that just
I know. I'm just saying, like the random shit that comes up. I'm just like, what?
Oh, you want to know something even more awesome? Night goblins, if they eat too many madcap mushrooms, actually, I think it's the night goblin shamans. If they eat too many mushrooms, they themselves turn into a mushroom. And they say it's a horrible way to go because eventually they just get eaten by their compatriots because it like empowers them or something. And I'm like, it's kind of funny. Like it sounds like something
mushrooms are.
Well, it's like there's like there are no female greenskins, but it's like your parent telling you don't you eat so many more, keep eating mushrooms, you're going to turn into one. And in this case, it actually does happen. You come into the world as a mushroom and you go out as a mushroom.
Yeah.
You know? Poetic, you know. Greenskins, very romantic culture.
Sure.
How could you disagree? the bromance between Gobla and Skarsnik transcends time.
All right.
Yeah. I don't know. Where else do we? Do you have any ideas? What is there anything else?
I'm pretty good, to be honest.
Oh, did you? Well, real quick. Were there any other, agents that you used? Like, did you go back to the River Troll Hag? Because I ended up using her pretty extensively.
To be honest, the way I play greenskins is orc shamans and fuck everything else. Like
shamans.
Well, no, like if you can show me a spell that's better for dealing with greenskin enemies than Brain Bursta and Foot of Gork, like I'm just gonna bring what's good. And you only get greenskin magic with the greenskins. I'm gonna use it if it's awesome and it's like thematically appropriate. I don't really see a big effectiveness in going with death magic, which I think is a slightly above average, if that. Compared to something that I think is a lot more valuable. So yeah, no, I had one in Skarsnik army by the end, but for the most part, I don't use them because orc shamans exist.
Fair enough. Yeah. I don't know. I think I just went for the River Troll Hag early on because that tier 3 settlement, I was just trying to crank out. Like I was trying to get the more bang for my buck. Like I could get an agent as well as stone trolls, just like with the other military building, you can get night goblins and a black orc big boss. So
right.
I don't know. I was just curious. I probably would have had an easier time had I gone that way, but I don't know. I wanted Skarsnik to be the biggest gobbo on the team. Anyway, okay. Well, I guess we could wrap it up there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Don't ask me the question.
Oh yes. How could I forget?
I don't know.
My God. Yeah. I've only been here since the beginning. I mean, we all have. But what would you say makes Skarsnik so renowned and feared?
I think it's mostly his ambushing tactics. Like you said he had a whole entire page or
Chapter.
like a section, dedicated to him in the Book of Grudges. Like he's doing something right, and by right I mean by the greenskin standards, not necessarily by the world or for that matter the dwarves. So yeah, like trapping dwarves consistently and kind of just slaughtering them when you're outmanned is pretty significant. So he's obviously renowned by the dwarves at the very least, which isn't insignificant in its own right. And feared, I mean, he's constantly accompanied by a giant cave squid. I think he's, pretty well protected. Like even if I was a dwarf in like full heavy army, that was a horrible sentence. I'm so sorry. That was kind of like facing something like that. Like squigs are one of the only things in the Warhammer universe where I'm just like, yeah, nah. Like I don't need to fight it. I'm good.
Mouths with legs with teeth strong enough to punch through armor, apparently.
Yeah. Give me a dragon. Like I would rather fight a dragon than a squig.
Well, you're not just fighting one squig; you're fighting a swarm of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just not into it.
No, I can see that. Yeah, I agree with you. He's basically the embodiment of Mork in the flesh. The fact that he's a night goblin, I got a soft spot in my heart for night goblins. They're just especially vicious. They got those funny clothes. They fight with poison, and I love that. And also, Skarsnik is he's one of those zero to hero stories. He's got a great underdog that he can really get behind. I mean, he starts out as a slave and then ends up as the ruler of Caracade Peaks. Even though it's kind of split up between Skaven and Greenskins, but Skarsnik usually seems to get the better of the Skaven most of the time. And like you said,
last little bit.
Yeah, but nobody counts that. Like you said, it is what it is. But yeah, I just really liked him. I like the interesting, in general, I like the interesting campaign restrictions that it gives you. Like it's not not super crazy out there, but only being able to use or not being able to use orc units is it's always fun for me to be restricted in that way. And I'm a big fan of goblins, so obviously whoever made Skarsnik loved gobbos as well. Remember when was it I'm trying to think of like a phrase. What's that phrase where like if you get thrown off a squig, you get back up on it get back up on it before it eats you, something like that. I don't know. I was trying to compare it with a metaphor about a horse or something.
Yeah.
I'm not making
when
it.
The squig kicks you off, get back on it before it eats you. I don't know.
Yeah. There you go. You said it better than I could. I don't know why I was stuttering so much.
That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It is my dream one day. Heaven is being
ride a squig.
Yeah, heaven is being high on mushrooms, riding a squig into the back line of the dwarven, quarrelers or whatever. Just feels good. You know what I mean?
You and I have very different aspirations.
A man can dream. Anyway, this has been Renowned and Feared. Please leave a like, subscribe, keep a lookout for our live streams. They're going to be hopefully at least every other week, and we're trying to do it more than at least on the off weeks between the podcasts. It's very difficult, but I don't know. Come by, check us out, and have a good time.
Yeah, we'll be playing Franz and Lewin, I think, for a while.
Yeah, at least until it gets. Yeah, I mean, I still want to definitely go back to it because it hasn't gotten stale. Like, there's a point in the campaign, like I think where I am right now at Skarsnik's campaign at 150. I'm like, could I keep going? Maybe.
Yeah. Pretty much accomplished everything you set out to do.
Yeah. I mean, they probably could. I started a war with the last defenders. They're hanging on down there.
Oh my god.
Yeah. But yeah. All right, everybody. Have a good night and stick around for the post show whenever I get off my ass and release that as well. All right. I actually have to tell Craig to get the fuck out of here.
Bye, Craig.
Craig, where is your command prompt? Fucking drone, Craig.